Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Totalbiscuit. It has been a lousy few days, I tell you that for a fact. Oh, Lord. The US Embassy has unfortunately dragged its feet somewhat in terms of the visa. I was supposed to be over in Vegas this weekend to cast the IPL 4. That hasn't happened because I don't have my passport back yet. And we are now in a situation where I'm not actually sure when I'm going to the States. Depends when the passport comes back, and then I'll have to arrange flights and so on and so forth. So things have been a little bit up in the air, and quite frankly, I've been a little bit unhappy. Because I was looking forward to being over there doing that tournament. But, well, it happens, and I'm not going to focus on the negative as much as I'd like to talk a little bit about the positive. So, the last few weeks we've actually had some fairly awesome victories in terms of getting PC games into a good state. There's been a few games that have come out lately that have, quite frankly, been atrocious in terms of their porting. And it's been unfortunate because those have been games that a lot of us have been looking forward to. Now, some of you aren't affected by the whole FOV thing. That's great for you. I'm happy that that's the case. Many more of us are. And honestly, even if you're not negatively affected by it, you've got to understand the value of being able to see more stuff on your screen. And there is a science behind it, particularly. But, don't want to rabble on too much about that. What I want to focus on is the fact that of the several awesome things that have been happening over the past couple of weeks, 2 of them have involved FOV, and 2 games that I've criticized for a lack of it. One being Gotham City Imposters, and the other being The Darkness 2. Gotham City Imposters got its FOV slider in a PC-exclusive patch 1.5, and you've probably seen the result in my WTF of that game, and I very much enjoy it. The other game was subject to a video which focused very much on its FOV issues, and indeed a debate with one of the 2K representatives that claimed it couldn't be done, that FOV could not be added to The Darkness 2. It would break the code, or more accurately, the tentacles on the shoulders of the character prevented it from happening. This was, of course, also not the case, and the guys over at Digital Extremes realized that and were able to bring an FOV slider into The Darkness 2, which is absolutely fantastic because it's a single-player game I've been looking forward to actually playing, and will get around to doing a full video of at some point, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. What that shows, I believe, is a direct response to calm, collected, and justified criticism from PC gamers. I've long believed, for good or ill, that PC gamers are the most vocal of gaming groups, and I think that that's fairly accurate. We do tend to talk an awful lot, we do tend to get a little bit rowdy on a variety of different issues, and we do tend to complain, and complaining is not necessarily the worst thing ever. In fact, complaining can bring many benefits. Some people bandy around the word entitled as if they know what it means. Of course they do not. A while ago, you may remember that I used to play World of Warcraft, and I used to do a podcast about it, and it wasn't exactly what I'd call entirely serious. In fact, it was very much overstated deliberately for comic effect. It was styled around these American shock jock radio broadcasters, although it was in part supposed to be parody, but still to kind of convey a message one way or the other, even though it was deliberately over-dramatized and laced with hyperbole for entertainment's sake. And I often talked about the idea of entitlement in that game. And when it came to entitlement in that game, it was fairly easily defined as demanding something that you haven't earned. Needless to say, it goes much deeper than that. Because the people that were making these demands actually did believe that they had earned this. They had earned the right to gain access to certain content before they actually did the work in order to make that happen. And in a game like an MMO, it's a different scenario because you're paying monthly. And as a result, many people felt they were entitled to more than their monthly fee actually allowed and gave to them. And in the case of the monthly fee, it was very much, hey, this is access to the server. What you do with it, within, of course, the bounds of the game and the rules, is pretty much up to you. And if you want it, you've got to earn it. And that was the way that the game ran for the longest time until things started to change around, and Blizzard had this idea in their head that catering to these people would be good for the long-term life of their game, and evidently this is not the case as subscriber counts continue to fall. However, lately the word entitlement has been bandied around by a lot of people that really shouldn't be doing so. IGN being one of them actually did a piece on gamer entitlement, which, quite frankly, is obscene for a publication to be doing anything of the sort. For the longest time, we viewed reviewers as the line of defense between developers and publishers screwing over consumers. They were the guys who could get the truth out about a game. They could cut through the hype. They could bypass the marketing and actually give us a real and legitimate view of what we were going to put down our hard-earned cash on. Sadly, things seem to have changed quite a lot, with a variety of scandals and revelations involving the fact that these companies do take a lot of advertising money from publishers. And as a result, their reviews seem to be leaning towards overly biased in favor of the publisher and developer. That's one thing. Going out to write editorials and create video content that is outright accusing vast swathes of people of entitlement and unreasonable behavior, now that is quite another, and something that I would abhor, honestly. That is not the place of an organization based on games journalism. The point of games journalism is to inform the consumer. It is to empower the consumer, because it's the consumer that has to put the money down. And indeed, that is the lifeblood of the industry in and of itself. So it makes sense for everyone, publisher, developer, distributor, games journalist, retailer, to treat the consumer with respect and dignity, and to be honest with the consumer. Because without the consumer, the industry would implode in upon itself. Not very good for anyone, is it? No, it is not. And yet, still, these publications, for some reason, see the need to use and more accurately misuse the word entitlement. What you are entitled to, in the purest and most legitimate sense of the word, is a product that is fit for purpose. And when it comes to playing on a PC, there are certain requirements, just as there are certain requirements on a console, that contribute to how usable, how playable, and indeed how enjoyable it is on that particular system. And you should tailor to that system. It doesn't matter which system it is, you should tailor to it. And expecting that to be there, expecting those standards to be in place, and expecting those features to be in the game is not unreasonable. Indeed, that is responsible. Not letting companies get away with that kind of nonsense is the way that we build a better industry for everybody. When it comes down to the FOV slider issue, as we saw, both of those sliders were implemented as a result of player criticism and feedback, and it wasn't an angry mob. It wasn't these so-called entitled gamers, this stereotype, this strawman argument that's being thrown out there, this construct of what these people, whether it be journalists or fanboys or indeed a mixture of the two in many cases, put out there and claim that gamers actually are. This was not what caused these things to happen. This was not bullying by consumers. This was not twisting the artistic vision, which seems to be bandied around so much lately as well in relation to the ending of Mass Effect 3, for instance. None of this actually happened. What got things done was reasonable feedback. In force, of course, but reasonable feedback. And it was obvious that that's what made it happen, because you can see the roots of the decisions. The Steam forums, widescreen gaming, as well as, of course, the Gotham City Imposters forums were instrumental in ensuring that this feature was added in later on. Not to mention the fact that Monolith has one or two very receptive staff who are willing to listen to that kind of feedback. When it came to the Darkness 2, I got a little bit more direct with that one. There was a debate over Twitter with 2K Elizabeth, as well as contact from one of the developers and higher-ups at Digital Extremes. And of course, there were other people on aforementioned forums saying, "Oi, we really need this sorted out because this is extremely uncomfortable. We cannot play this." That is what made that happen. You guys made that happen. Anyone that wrote to them and complained, anyone that tweeted at them, anyone that posted on the forums about those issues in a reasonable, calm, and adult manner, you got that change done. And it's not just about change, it's not just about getting options in our PC ports. It's even about getting games onto PC in the first place. We are seeing more and more companies coming back to PC as they realize the strength of the digital distribution-based market. They realize the long sell is the way to do things. The fact that there are infinite shelves with infinite numbers of copies, and the games can sell many years after their release on PC, whereas this would not happen on the console format. And as a result of your feedback, your signatures on the petition, your posts on the forums, your tweets, and just talking about it in general, we now have Dark Souls coming to PC in the Prepare to Die edition. That has now been confirmed in the German magazine PC Action, which I'm told is fairly dreadful and has some bizarre beliefs about Mr. Pandaria, but hey, I'll take what I can get at this stage. We don't have official confirmation of that as of yet, but at the end of the day, we have the scan of the front page of this thing, and it's been rumored for so long now. Indeed, there's even this Facebook thing that they've got going on to break down the wall on the Dark Souls Facebook page. Hasn't happened quite yet, but I expect to see that in the next few days and the official reveal. Supposedly this edition will contain new bosses, which in itself is pretty damn awesome extra content, and I hope that the console guys get that as well, considering those guys are loyal Dark Souls fans. But here is the fact. Consumers made that happen. There was no question about that. There was a serious outpouring of positive feedback on the idea of a PC version of Dark Souls, and now it's happening. More and more gamers are starting to find their voice, and more to the point are proving that they are willing to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to getting the games that they want. Kickstarter is such a fantastic example. In the last couple of days, a new Shadowrun game, headed up by the creator of the franchise itself, was funded in under 28 hours. Absolutely incredible. Not to mention Wasteland, a game that came out before a lot of you were even born, now has over $2.1 million in Kickstarter funding before the end of its actual fundraising cycle. That in itself is unbelievable. It's still got 9 days to go. Its original goal was $900,000. It was said by many, absolutely not. This will not happen. It is far too much money that is being asked here. And yet it blew past that goal. And indeed, I know a lot of you are very much responsible for helping it do that. So thank you for that. That is absolutely incredible stuff. We even secured funding for Takedown, a squad-based tactical hardcore shooter. $200,000. Not as much as you might think. Designed to let investors know that this was a viable project. That was the amount of money they had to raise to get investors on board. It was done. It was cutting it a bit fine, but it was done. At the last minute, it raised that goal, and they are talking to investors about that right now. How many more exciting projects will we see? A remake of the original Leisure Suit Larry is on its way, and that is doing very well in terms of its actual fundraising. That's incredible. How can you not be excited for where we are right now? For all of the negativity surrounding EA and the nonsense about EA being worst company in America. That's what online polls will do for you. Even with all the negativity, or indeed as a result of it, perhaps, we've got not one, but two pieces of free DLC coming for Mass Effect 3. One which is supposed to expand the overall ending with epilogue scenes to actually tell you, supposedly, what happens to your crewmates after the whole thing finishes off. Hopefully to give it a bit more of a satisfying ending. Bearing in mind that that was where a lot of this whole entitlement thing came from. That's where a lot of journalists got up in arms and actually defended BioWare and EA, as did many fanboys, of course, saying you cannot compromise their artistic vision, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, we have free multiplayer DLC coming in the next few days. And you might say, well, that's a reaction to negativity. That's just to get good PR. It doesn't matter what it's a reaction to. All that matters is that it is a reaction. And why is it a reaction? Because people made their voices heard. And they did so in such numbers, and despite all the negativity and ridiculous trolling surrounding BioWare, there were enough sane and sensible voices in the middle there to make something good come out of all of that. This is what is now happening on a weekly basis. Gamers get vocal, gamers put their feedback out there, and companies respond. That is how capitalism is supposed to work. Surely these companies want to please their demographic. Surely they wish to create a good product so that they can sell many copies of it. We have more power than you might think. Just a year ago, I might have said, petitions? Boycotts? Absolute nonsense. Tripe. They just don't do anything. And yet, over the last year, I think we've seen that that is not the case. Gamers can get what they want if they ask for it in the right way. If they stick to their guns, if they are reasonable, if they provide proof, evidence, and good rationale, then yes, you can get what you want. We're entering a very exciting year when it comes down to just that, and hopefully it continues to be so. Thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not 100% sure why I recorded that, but hey. Things will hopefully be going back to normal relatively on the channel the next couple of days. I know I've had a couple of days off. That was somewhat required, unfortunately. It wasn't so much to have a break. It was, well, I don't even want to go into it, you know. I think you probably realize that I'm a little bit down and somewhat upset about the whole IPL thing, but I'll get over it, and I'll get back on the horse. You will see more content returning to the channel. I know a lot of you have been asking about Terraria. That's a bit of a problem when, of course, Jesse is over in Poland, but he'll be back soon, and no doubt we'll have a return to that as well as all of the regular stuff. Thank you for watching, folks, and I will see you next time.